You can say go-go gadget, and then whatever thing you say go-go gadget toothbrush. Or is it go-go toothbrush, or is it go-go gadget?
No, it would be go-go gadget.
Go-go gadget too. Like, this guy could just sling his arms out. Like, he had the extend arms and stuff. I never watched the cartoon, though.
I saw the cartoon when I was a kid.
I only watched the movie.
I thought it was a pretty cool concept.
It is a cool concept.
It was a cartoon, so I knew it wasn't real.
Right. But think about if in real life, like bionic people, later on, it's pretty close, man.
Yeah? You think so?
No. But it's like...
Well, there's kind of, though, right? If you look at some of the... What do you call it? Fingers and stuff. Hands.
Oh, yeah, like the prosthetics?
Yeah.
Prosthetic limbs, yeah.
So where does the information come from? The brain?
Well, that's some of it.
Really?
Like, some of them, they're starting to get where you can send like electrical signals that... So, my boy Elon, he's got a company called, I think it's Neuralink.
Yeah.
And they're starting to work on...
I heard
you can embed chips into your brain to do serve the same function as parts of your brain that go brain dead. Like, so if you have a stroke or something, then you could have this chip put in to liven up that part of the brain that wasn't firing before. Because it's just sending an electrical signal, right? It's not really much more information than that. So if you can have something that fires the same type of signal, then you could, if you're paralyzed or something, you could move your...
Yeah, they're saying that could be the big one.
Yeah, that could be the... Well, this would be the next step of evolution, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's going to be the man-machine combination. Like, think of like Terminator. It's going to be like... Not like
I've never really seen Terminator either.
You never saw Terminator?
Maybe.
Really?
Not really.
I only saw the one where Arnold Schwarzenegger says, "I'll be back."
That's the only thing I know about it, but I never really watched it. I don't understand it. The concept. Well, I don't know the movie.
It's just futuristic technology coming back in time.
Oh.
That's the basic concept. So Terminator comes back in time as a future robot human. That's the basic principle of it. But anyways, that would be the next step, I think.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's already kind of starting. Like, you think how you have all your stuff on social media.
Yeah.
Or like people talk about living indefinitely. Like, think about that. Like, we talked about this the other day, how everything you have on social media, after you die, it's all there still.
Yep.
It's like there's a part of you that's like kind of still living, which is weird, you know? Yeah. So anyways, it'll be like some kind of...
Like, I know one of my friends actually in Sudbury just died recently. A year older than me. And his Facebook and all that stuff would still be there.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't go with you. It's weird.
Actually, yeah, a kid that I went to high school with that passed away, his like 1 year anniversary was the other day. And I saw like memories pop up of things he was saying and stuff, right? It's crazy. It's like he's still there. It's like it's crazy. It's in a sense, you know? It's weird.
Yeah, it is.
So anyways, Inspector Gadget.
Yeah.
It's a long way to get to evolution.
Yeah.
But this is how we talk.
Yeah.
So, starting off, we got rid of the rapid shot. So anyone who's watching the video, you'll notice behind Uncle Andy, we don't have the rapid shot machine anymore. So the gym's opened up quite a bit now, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, it's nice, eh?
And the floor looks brand new.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's a constantly wet floor, but
we'll work that in.
Yeah, we'll wear it in.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. So we're starting to ramp up for the spring and coming into summer. I've had a couple guys reach out again about coming to some of our camps from out of town. So anyone who's interested in doing that, you can send us use the contact page on the website or send us an email or whatever, and then we can work out a schedule or some dates or whatever. If you're at the appropriate level for those camps, then we can definitely accommodate that moving forward. Workout programs up, as everybody knows. If you're interested in that, you can fire away on that one.
Yep.
And OHL playoffs are starting to come up here, which is cool.
They're coming up. My son's got 2 games left of the regular season before the playoffs. So I'm just trying to get to as many as I can. And you know what? I was talking to a couple of the parents on the team, and they're like the same way. It's like, this might it doesn't last forever. It goes by so fast, just like minor hockey. I loved it so much that it was done. So now he started his OHL career, and it's like, I don't get to every game, but I get to as many as I can. And I absolutely love it. I love to see the hockey itself, get to see my son for 10 minutes here and there, maybe a breakfast, maybe a quick meal. So got to do that. And then it'll be over. So the playoffs are starting. For them, it looks like they're going to get the Sioux, looks like.
Yep.
looks like. So that'll be a little bit of travel for the boys.
Yep.
And the playoffs are coming. It's shaking out. There's what is it on the eastern side? Everything's done. The lineups are no, the spots are clinched. Maybe a little bit of positioning, and then on the west side, there's the battle for 8th is Erie and Sarnia. So it's gonna go right down to the wire. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, sweet,
Yeah.
man. I was talking to about the same thing with most of the kids, even some of the other guys that are playing junior B around here. It's like it goes fast, man.
Yeah.
It's over fast. I was talking to Seabass. He's coming back a couple days.
Well, he'll be back Sunday.
Yeah, and
Season's over.
your first year is done.
Yeah.
There you go. It's
First
done,
year's done.
you know, and it goes. You got 4, maybe 5, if you're lucky.
Play overage.
And then it's over, and
Yeah.
it's go fast, man. It
Then you're
goes
either
quick.
making money, or you're going back to school, or you're playing the beer leagues, or you're trying something else.
Yeah, and it's
That's why you got to enjoy it.
and you talked about this before, how like time is fast and slow.
Yeah.
You know, it
Yeah.
seems like it's taken forever to the day-to-day grind stuff takes a long time, but then you look back and it's so fast. Like
Yeah.
even for me, for junior, playing through university, being done university, it all seems like it's like a blur. Like when you think
Yeah.
back on it now, it was all together, but there's distinct moments I remember of when I was playing junior to like stop and breathe it in.
Yeah.
And I still remember them to this day of telling myself, like, take a moment because you're going to be gone again. And one of them that was interesting, going into my last year of junior, I had my appendix taken out and I was in like recovery for the first few months of the off season. And I lost a bunch of weight and thought it was going to be like this terrible thing, whatever. Then by August, I was back up to weight, felt great, ready to go for my last year. And I remember being in the gym. I used to work out at an old garage gym, and I remember being in the gym by myself, like just I was looking at the squat rack, and I was like, man, take it in for a sec because I'm going to be back up playing in Waterloo in a couple weeks. And that's my last year of junior. And I vividly remember standing there thinking that it's going to be over in a second. And that was, Jesus, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, so it's pretty crazy, man. It goes by
Look
fast.
at the kids coming up now, like kids that were training in their draft year, or maybe a year or two before their draft year, and it goes by so fast. Like, because those kids that are in their draft year now, right? That's the 06s. But I remember a couple years ago, it's like there's no chance. These guys are. There's no way. But now they look the part. It's funny how every year you look at a couple of people asked me that. They go, "Is those guys really a year older?" And I go, "Yeah." I said, "And your kids will be the exact same."
Exact same.
It doesn't seem like it could be, but
yeah. And this is just a leave off for parents too. Is you've said this so many times before, and I don't know yet. I don't have kids, but just enjoy watching. Like you're saying, there's a difference between being a lunatic parent and enjoying watching, and just enjoy watching. Like, don't be so worried about you have to do everything right and I'm trying to get the most I can out of hockey. And from the parent perspective, like that's not a worry you need to have, you know, be supportive of it, but just enjoy watching because it goes away and then it's over and then it's over and you don't get it anymore.
I'm real proud of my wife because like a mom, her son has moved away and stuff. And it's easy though, right, to get down the rabbit hole of what's all going wrong or how it can be better and stuff.
Sure.
But like, especially this first year, COVID kind of with the breaks and all that stuff made it a little bit weirder. But I remember earlier in the season, because my wife didn't grow up in hockey, she doesn't understand all of it. She's got a decent grasp on it.
Yep.
But I remember in the beginning of the season how when Charlie wasn't, getting a ton of ice, she'd be like, "Yeah, but I think he's playing better than this guy," or is this going to be like this all the time? And she was getting all nuts. And I said, just please relax. Just watch your son, watch him evolve, trust the process, look at, and I had, just like we did on a podcast, I would show her, I said, look, here's a guy, first year in the league. He's a superstar now. Look at his stats the first year, settle her down a bit. But sometimes she couldn't get not the politics, the coaching and the process. So I would have to like just settle down, just enjoy the game. Please enjoy because it's going to be over. And now it's almost over. And now it's easy to do the same thing for next year. Well, this better happen. Hey, just enjoy the process. Yep. It's going to be good.
And it's
up to the kid.
And it's such a cool thing too. If you get so caught up in the seriousness of the game, you miss like how unique of an experience it is. Even for some of the guys that are playing in Leamington, they were telling me the other day they had 1,000 fans or whatever, packed house, And 1,000 fans doesn't seem like a lot, but when it's a packed house and you're playing in front of a bunch of
Yeah,
people,
you're playing in a smaller rink.
it's like if you think about when from mom and dad's perspective, like just look around, like look what your kid is doing.
Yeah.
Like this is a cool thing, man. Not a lot of people get to do this where they're
Yeah.
and that's just at the junior level. It's not, let alone playing at OHL ranks or NHL ranks
Yeah.
or whatever. It's just a cool thing when you go watch your kid playing against the Windsor Spitfires. It's like, man, there's 5,000 people here.
Yeah.
Like this is crazy.
Like,
Like,
see how loud it was in Windsor?
holy crap!
That's how
man.
it is in Guelph too. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's like people are paying money to come and
Yeah.
watch, and
Yeah.
as a night out or as entertainment in their life, they come
Yeah.
and watch your kid play. Like that's a cool thing, man. Not a
Yeah.
lot of kids get to do that kind of stuff, So enjoy that.
Another cool thing was Christine being mom over the last before Charlie moved away. So a lot of the times in the mornings when I came here in the summertime, let's say, or whatever for training, and he would come with me and I'd get up at 5 and I let him sleep an extra half hour. I'm a nice guy. So 5:30 or 6. So Christine was like, you should make him set his alarm and make him get up himself. I said, yep, we should. So we got him on that thing, but he knew I was there. So I would give him the Charlie, I'm leaving in 5, and then you'd hear him coming down the stairs. And so Christine was like, he's got to learn. He's got to learn. He's going to be moving away. If he's late for school and if he's late for practice, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I said,
true.
but here's the issue. And this is my point for parenting, right? The kids figure it out. When we're there as parents, like, and you can think about this when they're shooting, when you say they should be shooting more pucks, they should be doing this. When you're there, you're the biggest pain in the ass. You're the one that you're not the one to talk to them. So what I said to my wife was like, well, if he goes to Guelph and he misses practice because he slept in or he didn't go to school and Coach George snaps on him and doesn't dress him for 3 games because he doesn't take life seriously, I guess he'll figure it out.
Yep.
So,
well,
the kid figured it out, obviously.
Yeah.
So that you got to just let the kids be. They'll sort this stuff out on themselves. They're gonna grow up, man. They're gonna grow up
and
fast.
this is why one of the best things that can happen for a lot of people. I mean, some people don't. Some people go down the wrong hole. But moving away and having to take care of your own shit is because that's what a common thing that I've noticed with just people in general in any domain you want to talk about. People only solve problems when they have to.
100%.
So until you're feeling the squeeze, it's like I forget what the law is. I don't know if it's
Pareto's law.
No, not Pareto's law. Is it Parkinson's law?
Parkinson's law.
You'll fill the time you have.
Do what you got to do with the time you need.
That's it. If you have 2 months to get a task done, or you have 2 weeks, you'll get it done
or
in
2
whichever
hours.
or 2 hours, right? And that's what happens in terms of the learning curve for a lot of
100%.
people. When you learn to solve the problem when you have to now. When your car breaks down, you didn't listen to the check engine light, but now the car's falling apart. And now you got to go take care of it. And a lot of people are like that. And it's the same with kids. You put them in, force their hand to get them in those situations where they have to figure it out, and they start to learn how to figure it out. And that's
what's like going to bed, right?
Oh yeah,
like the kids going to bed. If dad's always like, okay, it's 9:37, you're 5 minutes late for bed. That would be a weird time to go to bed, by the way. 5:32, 9:32, and you do that every night. The kid's just like, he's just resisting to resist.
Yeah.
But once he goes away, and he realizes that he was on his phone till 11:30, and he wakes up the next morning dog shit. And he practices and he's dragging his ass and he's and for whatever the day might be long, and he figures it out pretty quick.
Yeah.
If I want to perform, I'm going to need to get to bed. So that's what happens. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Mom and dad don't have to do everything for them.
And that's probably the balance of good parenting too, is figuring out how to kind of artificially create those scenarios where they figure it out without actually having like dire consequences for whatever the situation is. That's probably a really difficult balancing act to pull off, where you're teaching them the lesson without actually putting them in the situation where there's the consequence. Because when there's the actual life consequence, then they have to. But if you can do that as parents when you want to protect your kids, it's like if you can do it in like a protective environment but still have them learn the lesson, that's kind of that's winning the lottery as a parent, but most likely I would say.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
interesting process.
Yeah, seriously.
Goes by fast. Looking forward to the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. So we went on a little bit of a tangent there, but do you want to still touch on the first point you were going to talk about there with
I think
OHL
for the
stuff?
kids and for this, I think is kind of important. So last week, Niagara Ice Dogs. Well, 2 incidents in the OHL happened this year. One, Flint Firebirds had to fire their president and GM. And then Niagara suspended their coach, GM, and the ownership, like a lot of money. And they're suspended, like the coach and GM are suspended for operations for at least 2 years. I've heard that the team sold, but I that's what I've heard. So this isn't to talk crap about them, right? There's a lesson in here for the players. So number one, I want to start with the first incident that started was with Flint. And in Flint, they already had a couple of incidents with the team, but they kind of cleaned things up. And in fact, my good friend Eric Wellwood coached it, and it became a good organization. Team's good, by the way, really good, interesting team to watch. Great players. But what happened this year, and this I've got this from some very good sources, like very close in the league, and sources and stuff like that. And what happened there was I'm not going to go into the details of it, but the president GM was a bad person and treated people. There was some racial stuff. There was that was going on, and so the thing was to him is that he's a little bit older than me, maybe 5 years, maybe 10, maybe 100, but no, he's definitely 5 to 10 years older than me. And this is the old school hockey, right? The old school hockey was kind of like the coach, the GM, the hockey world was very gruff and very, very archaic, really, to be honest with you. So this guy was going around and treating people like shit, and all the time. Like I've heard a few people say, like it never stops. The cursing never stops, which that was kind of the hockey culture, and it kind of is within the closed doors.
Yep.
But then there was some racial stuff. So within members of the club. So meaning I have some staff and some players. So finally one player stepped up, called the league and said, like, this is what's happening. And I'm calling you to let you know, and, something should be done. And the league got on it really quick. So they did their investigation to find out, yeah, it's all true. So they got rid of the guy. And things seem to be going pretty well there now, so which is good. My point to that is, the kid that made the call, I know who it is. Good for him, because this is the issue with. Now it could go one way. It could be the smallest, tiniest thing that could be, but this was not tiny. It was something, right? So this kid had the guts to put his balls on the line, made a call to the league. Maybe it doesn't go anywhere, and then he's in. He looks like the bad guy within his bosses. Yeah. Right. But he didn't. He went to the league. They made the appropriate decision to relieve this guy of his duties. Like, you can't work here ever again. He'll never work in hockey again for sure. And it was ballsy. But the other point of that is that, like, we're in 2022. Who thinks it's appropriate to be doing anything racial? Like, I mean, come on, man. Yeah. Come on. Like it makes no sense. And especially when you have all kinds of people around. But the jackassism catches up to you at some point. And this guy was a clown, and I'm not afraid to say that. He was a clown. There you go. Yeah. So that was that. And the other one was the Niagara Ice Dogs. So I'm not going to say what happened, but basically in a private conversation, apparently, WhatsApp. Yeah. Okay. He was the coach and the GM were having conversations, and they said some very derogatory things about some women and scouting and different things like that. If you want to go find it online, it's there. All right. But this person sent it out online. Well, is WhatsApp, you call it online?
Yeah, it's a text.
Okay, more or less. Yeah. Text, yeah. So
it's supposed to be private communication, but like when it's nothing's private if it's a group chat or if it's in writing. So
that's my point.
Yeah.
So they got fined 250,000, 150,000. They can't. Those people can't be involved in the operations of the hockey club for at least 2 years. I heard it's sold, so it probably won't matter anyways. But so number one, like when you're in these positions, so number one is ownership, my business, us dealing with people all the time, saying things off the cuff that have to be thought of first, even if it's live like this. If it's online, you really have to think of what you're saying, because it could be monumental. Is that the right word?
in terms of how it affects you. Yeah.
It can affect you like in such a like dramatic way. And but I'm talking more for the kids now. You just can't, guys. Like when you're, you have to think. So if you decide that you're going to take a picture that's funny amongst your 5 friends and send it out on what are some of them? Not WhatsApp, Snapchat,
Oh, yeah.
and the boys see it. All it takes, man, is one guy to ruin your life, one person to report something, one person to say it to the wrong person, and it's done. Now you're dealing with consequences of something that may be very, very innocent. But if you say something in that print, it never goes away.
Yep.
Even though they say that the stuff that disappears, it never goes away.
Mm-hmm.
So I with the kids, it's like I can't say it enough. If there's any question, just don't do it. Just don't do it. And because it could lead to some real disaster in your life.
Yep. And a couple things on that. First thing I want to point out is I don't know the owners of these 2 teams or coaches, whoever it was.
Yeah.
I don't know the types of people that they were, whatever. As grown adults, obviously that's not behavior that is appropriate, and they got the appropriate punishment for what they were doing. The difference between the first and second situation, though, is also important. So the first situation where you have a guy that's blatantly saying things that are treating people like shit and blatantly saying things that might be racial or derogatory, whatever type of phobic word you want to use, like inexcusable, bad person, deserves whatever he's getting. Yeah. Right. In the second situation with Niagara, where they think that they're having a private conversation, there's a big difference between having the intention to do it, because then it's like there's no question. Like the owner of Flint or whoever it was that was doing what they were doing, like see ya, no question. But when things get leaked from a private conversation, you could see that it still has the same effective consequence as someone who intended to do harm.
Yeah.
You know? So whether you intend to or not, unfortunately today there should be a distinction, but there isn't really. So especially as a kid, like for adults, especially these coaches, like I'm in no way am I saying that they shouldn't be punished for what they're doing. They're adults. They're supposed to be professionals. So see you later. That's fine. But for kids that don't know better, or that you just didn't think it through, you can still have these things that will follow you around for the rest of your life after. So it's very important that you think the stuff through, man. Like stuff doesn't disappear. You can't just say whatever you want. You have to think things through, even if you don't mean it. And that is what my point is of this for kids. Even if you don't mean what you're saying, and you're just joking around, you know, it's like when they try to go after comedians for jokes. Yeah. You know, it's a comedian, man. He's making a joke. Is it an appropriate joke? Yeah. Well, it's a joke. So like, that's what it's for. Yeah. It's for being a joke, you know, but things are very sensitive. So you have to be careful about what you're typing, what you're sending, pictures you're taking, videos you're taking. The stuff comes out all the time with people getting in these controversies because they just didn't think through what they were doing. And it's unfortunate for kids because it can follow you around, man. And that's a consequence you don't want to have to deal with later on. Yeah.
Well, think about how difficult it was for me. My change in the business, right? Yeah. I had to change. I had to adapt. Like I grew up with coaches calling you every name in the book. The communication was like, you suck, you're a wuss, whatever, all the words, right? And then when I started coaching kids, if someone, let's say, you know, was taking it easy or looking for an easy way out, or I got a sore whatever, I would be like, don't be such a little freaking wuss. Yeah. Don't be so soft. So what? Like, you know, and I'd say certain words, certain ways, like, because I'm from 1927.
Certain profanity is more acceptable. I mean?
Yeah. And then as I evolved, realize that so the kids and culture and all that stuff, and for in a lot of ways better, you can't say it. You can't do that stuff. You can't say it because the kid will go home and then it becomes public. And then you're a bad person and all that stuff. And for what I mean by the better is because what it did, it forced me to find ways to think differently, speak differently, address things differently, and calm me down a little bit because of, like, you know, if sometimes a kid just, you know, how it made me better is actually when things got hard and they didn't want to do the thing, it just made me realize more and more, instead of me taking it personally, I would just say, well, in my own head, I said, well, I can't help a kid that doesn't want to push through a little bit, right? So in some ways it helped a lot. But the bottom line is, guys, is when you're you just have to be sensitive to the world. And if you don't have something really good to say, or if you don't have something good to say, and you see it in any way that could harm someone or offend someone, just don't say it. Don't say it.
Yep.
And then especially in groups of people, because you never know who you're going to be in a room with. And then lastly, on the social media stuff, again, don't post shit. If you're a hockey player, have a couple pictures of you playing hockey if you want, if that makes you happy, or doing a travel, something, a picture here and there, but don't make yourself a social media. Like, don't let people know your whole life.
Yep.
And who you hang out with. Like,
Yep.
leave some privacy, leave some guessing.
Yep.
So we're thinking about this week. Came across had one of the players that I trained that moved away that was kind of calling it getting out of a slump. But I wouldn't even, what I told him, I said, I wouldn't even say it's a slump. I would just say you're playing fine, but fine's not your best.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, not playing 100%. So, when you get into these situations, like the first things you want to do, or the first thing you do is you show frustration, right? So that's what this player was doing. He was showing frustration. I need to bury those. I'm not playing that well, and it starts to snowball the negative way. And when you do that to yourself, your mind will do exactly what you're telling it to do, right? If you're telling yourself that you're not scoring and you need to play better and all that kind of stuff, your frustration comes through. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. And so my first recommendation was, after listening to him, it's always going to come back to this though, and it's going to come from parents. And this is why it's really important to understand your basics, those 3, 4, 5 things that make you a good hockey player. Because typically what happens when someone slumps, now there's multiple reasons, right? Sometimes someone might be slumping or not at their best for a lot of reasons. Could be, as I put down here, and this is something that you have to analyze for yourself, is ask questions to yourself, right? Ask your questions. Are you tired? Is the team tired? Or you've been playing a lot of hockey? So there's an answer, right? So that might mean you need a little bit more sleep. Maybe you're just gassed. Are you frustrated with something else that's transforming into your hockey? So could be coaches being a little hard on you, or maybe he's taking away a little bit of ice, or he's switching a line on you and you don't feel like you're producing, and maybe it's your own reaction to what you consider a negative experience or a negative feedback loop, and it's reflected in your play, right? It could be, your eating habits. It could be, you haven't stretched yet, got out of your routines. And then, of course, you ask those questions. You say, okay, maybe you identify something else. And then you identify your game, like dial in your basics. So, like, if I'm a power forward, I just like using that one because I find it's easy to talk about. If you're a power forward or a physical player, then, like even a goal scorer, right? If you're not getting the points, then you dial back to your basics, right? Am I finishing hits? Am I good in my D zone? Am I doing this, and this? Your 4 or 5 things that make you the player that you are. And then if you actually look at it, there's probably a gap in those areas. So even if you're a goal scorer, if you're not scoring goals, there's things you can do to help yourself. And goal scoring is probably one of the hardest things to do. But you want to go back to basics, because the basics of the foundation is what's actually going to make you a good player.
Yep.
So as I spoke to this player, I said, like, identify your basics. And so we went through it, right? Are you finishing your hits? So that was one of the things. Well, I just feel like I'm not around it as much, the hits.
Oh, that's a good thing to notice.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah.
He said, I just feel like they're there, but they're not. I said, okay.
Yeah, like a little late to it, or
a little late, or
a little far away, or whatever.
Yeah, but we went deeper on that. Okay, were they? Were they though? Because I saw a couple of the games, and I'm like, were they? Like, I think those were maybe even decisions.
Yeah, you were maybe just hesitant or something.
Hesitant or tired or maybe sore, right? Like you're using the body a lot. Maybe it's a little bit sore. Maybe this was a bigger boy. Maybe, The team was maybe not playing as well, and it's just kind of that trickle down effect of attitude.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things.
Right.
And then there was some chances for scoring goals, and he was squeezing the stick, and then one game he felt like it was a really big game. So that was another thing. He thought it was a really big game, and he was just like had the jitters a little bit. I was like, oh man, like, and it took him a period to get through. And I'm like, okay, so these are all good lessons, right?
Mhm.
Especially as a younger junior player.
Yeah.
So we kind of addressed the contact, like it has to happen. But sometimes you're not going to get contact all the time, but that's probably because of your positioning, or maybe a little bit of laziness, or you're just out of your own head.
Yeah.
So you got to find a way. But then you just tighten up other things, because it'll always come to you. Tighten
Right.
up the little things that make all the difference. And then the last kind of point that we can go through that stuff after, but the last point I also had was, especially like if you think about scoring, is visualize. And it was like, yeah, I know, but you don't know, because this is a proven fact, scientific fact, that the most elite athletes in the world are the best visualizers. That's been proven. So it might be one of the most overlooked things, because what is visualizing, or what's the other word for it? Imagery. Where you actually take the time, like this is the mental toughness thing, right? Most people think it's got to be the physical grind, right? Do something harder, better, faster, but it's in between the 6 inches of your ears, right? So the imagery piece, if you just actually spent 10 minutes a couple times a day, or 10 minutes a day, that's actually a pretty good start of seeing yourself play hockey, because your mind can't tell the difference between fake and reality. So if it sees yourself, and when we talk about imagery, as we said in a podcast before, it's not just seeing, it's actually being there. So you want to engage all your senses and see yourself doing well, because your mind's going one way or the other.
Yep.
And I'm just squeezing the stick, I'm playing hard, I'm a little nervous, I'm a little this, things aren't going my way. You're giving that feedback to your brain that all the things you're doing wrong.
Yep.
So that 10 minutes once a day, but you should do it more, is see yourself in a successful place. It starts there. We always talk about the mental side of hockey. It starts there.
Yep.
So if you can see yourself in a particular arena, and you can try to add the sounds and the smell and the feel, everything that you can possibly do, and just watch yourself play. Put yourself in a situation where you do good things. Like if it is finishing hits, like bang, you see yourself finishing that hit all the time, maybe taking a puck with it. You see yourself coming up the ice hard and getting that puck on your stick, and you're seeing that goal 50 times before that game, right? All of a sudden your brain is seeing yourself do well. It's expecting you to do well, because it's seeing what it sees.
Yeah.
And you do that, that's probably the best start. So visualize and get back to basics, and those are the couple of things that I would give.
Yeah, that's
and it actually helped. It got out. So it was like 3-4 game. It was a 3-4 game, and it just took one success and a little bit of work.
Yeah, I'm going to touch on that last point and then go back, because I want to talk about that for a sec. The visualize, the mental part. So I'm an evidence-based person.
Yeah.
But I'm very willing to entertain a little bit more of the woo-woo anecdote.
Yep.
So a lot of people will dismiss the power of the mind and being able to support yourself just through how your mentality is.
Rightly so. Don't see it.
Right. So I'm going to just try to prove it to all the people that are dismissive of that. So a lot of people have heard of the placebo effect.
Yeah.
So the placebo effect is the most reliable metric when you're doing scientific studies, how people convince them. So people that don't know what the placebo effect is, if you have two groups of people and let's say you're trying to, you're designing a new drug and you want to see its effectiveness in two groups.
Headaches.
Yeah, so we want to get rid of headaches. There you go. So I take two groups of people that have headaches. I give one group my new drug that I made up, and I give the other group pretend drug. So it's not the real thing. It's a sugar pill or something that doesn't actually do what my drug is supposed to do.
Yeah.
The placebo effect is one of the most reliable indicators. So I think it's in the 30, this could be wrong, but it could be around 30% of people.
Yeah.
If they just think that they're getting something, they have better outcomes.
Yeah.
Even though they're not getting anything.
Yeah.
So if I say, hey, here, take this, it's going to help you with your headache, and you take it's a water pill or a
Yeah.
sugar pill
Yeah.
or whatever, 30% of the people or something in that percentage
Yeah.
reliably will have improved outcomes with their headaches, even though they didn't get anything.
Yeah.
They just thought they were.
Yeah.
You know? So that's one thing. So if you translate that into what you were just talking about with the visualization and the imagery type stuff, another example that aligns with that is when you dream. So if you think about when you're sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
when you have a dream, a very vivid dream that you remember when you wake up, that thing felt real, man. Even
Yep.
if it makes no sense at all, even
Yep.
if the storyline completely makes no sense,
Yeah, for
you
sure. It was,
you
yeah.
you feel like you're there. You have feelings about it. You can feel actually what you felt while you were having the dream. You physically, it seems like you were there, and then you wake up and you're like, what the hell? And you're all disoriented and whatever. And your brain believed it. Like your brain thought that was actually happening while you were in your dream. You know, so don't underestimate how much stuff like that can actually help. The more you can convince yourself that you're in those situations, the more you can have an actual outcome. Like these are real things that actually happen. Like the headache thing. You know, if you think you're going to get an outcome, a lot of times people get an outcome just by thinking they're going to get one, even though they didn't do anything different.
Yeah.
If all things equal, they'll still get a result.
Yeah.
You know, so that's just for the people that just dismiss and think it's woo woo or the, spiritual mindset type stuff that people don't want to entertain that. It's like, those are two scientific things that are just reliable. It's just facts. And nobody knows how to explain those things from happening. So you can help manifest those things for yourself if you spend some time thinking about it.
Yeah.
So I want to point that out on the last point.
Well, okay, go ahead.
No, I'm going to switch. So go say what you got to say and then
So
I'll move on.
The other thing about that, like since I want to stay on that for a minute.
Yep.
The other thing about that is we talk about what percentage of the game is hockey, what percentage of life, or which percentage of the game is mental, what percentage of life is mental. Everything's mental. That's what we always talk about, right? But let's just say you have a choice though, right? You have a choice to look at your negatives and feel sorry for yourself, because that's essentially what you're doing if you're not fixing a solution, or if you're not finding a solution, is you're sitting in your shitty diaper and enjoying it. And people end up enjoying it, right? Because it's sometimes just easy to criticize, complain, condemn. That's the Dale Carnegie rule, the 3 C's. It's so easy and it's so natural for people in general to go there. And a lot of times people just want someone to say, yeah, I know it's going to be hard. Hopefully it gets better. Yeah, your coach is a jackass and it is other people's fault, but it's not solving an issue. So by visualizing, looking at the issues and visualizing and imaging, is you're actually giving yourself a task. So what does that resemble? That resembles what we call the lesson 1 of mental toughness, is doing what's important now, or focusing on or controlling what you can control. So when you're in a situation in a game or in a slump where you recognize that, okay, you're not at your best, that's why it's important, right? When you come in between shifts, to forget the past, forget the future, focus on what's now. What's important now? What's important now is that I focus on my next shift. Nothing else matters, right? Yep. So that you don't get into a slump that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 games, sent down to the minors or cut, right? Mm-hmm. You can deal with it as it comes. And as you do the what's important now, control what you can control on a regular daily basis, or in a game, if you do it like 15 shifts, 15 times, whatever, then it becomes part of your thing. So what you're doing now is you're looking at your issue and you're saying, okay, what's important now and how can I fix it? And how you can fix it is through imaging or visualization. So even if it doesn't, let's say it doesn't, there's no evidence of that, you're doing something productive.
Yep.
You're seeing yourself succeed instead of sitting in a shitty diaper for 10 games.
Yeah.
Waiting for something. So that's what's the other thing that's important about it, is you're giving yourself a solution to fix problems, and it will work. Right? So mentally and going back to your basics.
Yeah,
so go ahead, man. You're moving on.
I want to go back to the slump thing. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Okay. And I want you to just tell me what you think a slump is. What is a slump?
Well,
like, what does that mean?
I think a lot of people would just say you're not scoring goals, or whatever you're doing, what you think you do well is not happening. But I think the other side of it is that people really don't know what they do well. And a lot of times people take one negative and they call it a slump. So, okay, if you're Alex Ovechkin and you haven't scored in 10 games, you could assume you're having a slump because he's a goal scorer, right? And that's kind of maybe the easiest metric to measure what a slump is. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're in a slump. It's
That's
perceived.
right.
You're perceived. It's a mental thing, right?
Yeah.
It could be a team, right? You're in a slump. Well, why are you in a slump? What does that mean? You haven't won in 5 games. Well, if you've won the first 15 or 20, you lost 5. It's not really a slump. You're just in a stretch where you haven't won.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily negative.
Right. So
Not negative.
You're taking this is exactly what my point is. So
Yeah.
a lot of times what people do when they are deciding whether or not they're in a slump is they look at outcomes to determine whether or not it's a slump, right? So this is the same as judging whether or not you play well by the amount of points you get.
Yeah.
Right? It can be an indicator, but it's not always an indicator.
No.
You know, so if you're going to say that you're in a slump, the first thing I want to point out about it is understand why you're saying you're in a slump.
Yeah.
So if you're saying you're in a slump, like you said, because you didn't score in 5 games or 10 games or whatever, then you could be in a slump, but maybe you're not a goal scorer.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you're not the guy that's supposed to score. Or let's say you have a really hot start to the season. Like we had one kid who had like 9 goals in the first 5 games of the year or whatever. Yeah. And then he went a stretch without scoring. It's like, was he in a slump? Or maybe he just had a really good start.
That's exactly.
You know? So it's like,
exactly.
So be careful with identifying or associating slump with an outcome, like some kind of outcome-based metric, because the game changes. You know, sometimes you get good bounces, sometimes you don't get good bounces, whatever. And especially when you're young and you don't really have an identity as a player yet, it's hard to say like you're in a slump just because you're not scoring or whatever. So just and it could be that you're in a slump. I'm not saying it's not that, but I'm just saying be careful of always associating goals, points, or whatever metric, outcome-based metric you want to use as being a slump, because it might not be. And that's why I think it's really important, whether you're talking in terms of a slump or just your performance, that you use process-based metrics, not outcome-based metrics. So to your point, like you were saying before, if you feel like you're in a slump, then you want to ask the next question of why do you feel that way? So it's always why. Why am I saying that I'm in a slump? Yeah. So if you're a guy that should be scoring goals, let's say, even that you're a guy that's supposed to be scoring goals, then why are you not scoring the goals? So it's like, okay, am I getting shots? Am I getting pucks to the net? Yeah. Am I in the same places that I used to be when I was scoring goals? Yeah. And now, so like now we're shifting the focus. It's not just, am I putting the puck in the net? It's like, okay, maybe I'm not getting to the areas of the ice where I was earlier. Yeah. And whatever. Or like how you're saying about that one player, how I just feel like I'm not around the physical part as much. Yeah. It's like, okay, why are you not around the physical? Like, what's the reason? Why is that? You know, so when you're going to try to address this, go back to process-based things. So you were saying one thing we always talk about is have your 2, 3, 4 things that make you a very good player. Yeah. It's easy to use the power forward as the example because they have things that aren't scoring that you can focus on. Yeah. That's what makes using a power forward example easier. But even if you're not, even if you're a playmaker, or even if you're supposed to be a guy that's scoring the goals, or if you're a defenseman, it's like, am I getting my 2, 3 blocked shots a game? Yeah. Am I doing that? Yeah. If I'm not, why am I not doing that? Am I puck focused over here, and then so I can't flex out to where I'm supposed to be when they move it, or whatever it is? You know, so try to focus on those things that are more process driven, even if you think you're in a slump, because now you're going to go back to, like you said, go back to your basics. What are my 3, 4 things? If it's supposed to be finishing checks, if it's supposed to be getting shots on net, if it's supposed to be whatever. And maybe, I don't know what you think about this, because one thing I always think about for scoring goals is a lot of times, even just watching the scrimmage game we had the other night here, guys always want to get so close to the net.
Oh yeah. Wow. So close.
Yeah.
And they that's one thing for sure. But while you're getting close, you're taking away time, or you're increasing the time of the shot. So the element of surprise or the quickness is not there.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of times it's just on your stick and off, and you'd be surprised what happens.
Right. So I find like this might be the cycle of someone who is a goal scorer, let's say, is I'm not scoring goals. I'm going to try harder to push it to the net now. Yeah. And it's like, actually, maybe you need to, or to get to the net, to try to get to the net, I'm going to try harder. It's like, well, maybe you need to not focus so much on getting so close to the net. Maybe just throw everything at the net. Yeah. Like you get over the blue line, as soon as you have a lane, rip it. Yeah. Just start getting pucks to the net again. Yeah. Right. And see what happens that way. Yeah. Because I remember that even. It's like, I'm going to try extra hard to get to the goalie now to bury one. It's like, well, yeah, the closer you get, the harder everyone plays you.
Harder you
right?
play, the less room you have to make a
You know,
mistake.
the more
or
ready the goalie is, like all
the more
that kind of
perfect
stuff.
you have to be.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so that's why I wanted to just circle back on that. Make sure you're focusing before you say you're in a slump. Make sure the reason you're saying that is because of process things you're not doing properly. Because then you have something to fix, right? If you say, "Well, I'm just not scoring," it's like, okay, how do you fix not scoring without identifying something process-wise you're not doing to score? You know. So it's like you have to make sure you're focused on the right thing before you just say, "Oh, I'm in a slump, I'm not scoring," because then you don't have something that you can actually work towards fixing on the ice. You know?
Yeah, it could be you got two guys playing hard against you instead of one.
Yeah.
You know, guys are playing hard against you because you are a guy that scores goals. It could be so many different things. That's why, like, I'm really, really, really huge on both players and teams having identities. You know,
so important, man.
So important because if you don't actually know what you do well or perceive like that you do well, then it's really hard to fix anything or to measure if you had a good game. That's why it's very, very important. Like if I'm whatever type of player, it doesn't matter. There's a defensive, neutral zone, offensive, there's physical, passing, shooting, right? There's these things. And you got to take the things that you're the best at and just say, these are the 5 things I do well or that I need to do in a shift, right? You have your own that makes you play well. And then your team, that's why it's important to have a team identity so that you understand that you're fitting in, you know, you're contributing to the team the right way, right? So you're not doing something contradictory to what your team philosophy is. Very, very important. And that's just something coaches it's very important that they have that, you know, this is how we play. This is our style. I'm just going to finish this part or you can add whatever you want, but real funny. I watched this morning, there was a clip on Brian Sutter. Is that his name? Daryl Sutter, coach for the Calgary Flames. And he's sitting there, you know, with his face, just not miserable. He's just the way he speaks. And they're like, "Oh, Johnny Gaudreau got his 100th points. How do you feel about that?" And he goes, he just looks at the camera. I don't care. I don't care about that. He goes, it's not the Stanley Cup, so I don't care. He doesn't care.
Yeah. And
it's like what Scott Walker was saying. He's with the Vancouver Canucks now, but he's one of the owners of the Guelph Storm. When he coached the Guelph Storm, people asked about his son. They said, you know, he's starting to get some points. He goes, "I don't care about points." He goes, I swear to you, when I coach, I don't care. I don't even notice who scores. I don't care. He goes, it's the process and how we play. He goes, I got guys out there that haven't scored in 15 games, but there's some of the best players on the ice, and I can never take them off the ice. So it's not about the points necessarily, right?
Yeah,
it's about the game.
I want to go to the coaches now because this is a huge thing that coaches can do and this could be to help kids that are in this get out of a slump, but just setting up the identity thing off the hop here's something you can do because I never did this ever, was think about who do I play like?
Right.
What kind of player am I? Yeah. I never had that articulated in my head at all. I was like, I can make some plays. I'm above average size, so I can use my body a little bit. But I never said, like, I play this way. Like, these are my 4 or 5. I never did that ever. So as a coach, knowing that at the start of the year when you have a bunch of kids that don't know and a bunch of parents that aren't telling them to figure this stuff out, you should do that with your team and with the players. Everyone does their player meetings, right? So when you do your player meetings, like, tell the kids what you think about how they should be playing. Yeah. And maybe you're wrong, but at least you're giving them some direction, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I told you about my coach in junior my last year, who not a fan at all. Yeah. I had a meeting with him like halfway through my last year of junior, and he told me that I should be playing like Scott Hartnell. That's what he said. And I was like, well, that would have been good for you to tell me when I first got here.
Could have watched a clip or two.
I could have watched some clips and tried to learn what he does.
Yeah.
It was like, why is that not set up off the hop? Because I didn't think I played like that at all. Yeah. I was like, I've never ever once thought Scott Hartnell. Yep, that's the guy. 6'3", big power forward type of guy when he was playing. Yeah. It's like, that's not how I play. And now that I'm 19 years old and you're telling me to totally change halfway through my last year of playing junior, it's like, how is that supposed to work?
Yeah.
It was just discouraging. It was like, wow, we are totally not lined up at all. Like, you know, but if he sets the tone off the hop, like, this is what I expect you to do. Yeah. If you don't do this, then you're not going to get the opportunity you want. Then it's like, okay, now it's on me. Like I got to be willing to do that.
Yeah.
But when there's no communication on that, then you can't set things up right off the start, you know? And then if it's a kid that is in a slump, you can pull this kid in and now you can go back to those things, right? You can say, hey, we're watching your game. I know you like what's going on. First of all, let them talk about, well, I feel like nobody's passing to me and I'm not playing the good minutes and all the excuses that young players give. I gave all of them.
Yep.
Because I had this exact thing happen to me.
Does. No one wants to take the blame.
No, that's right. But you can say as coach, like, okay, got it. But we notice watching you that you're not doing these 3-4 things that we said at the start of the year that are making you a good player. Like you're not getting pucks to the net, right? Or you're looking to pass more than shoot if you're a goal scorer, or you're not finishing your hit. Or you keep getting locked up on the walls instead of getting the puck, or whatever it is. You have something to go back to, and then they can say, oh yeah. So you're like recentering them on something that they can understand.
Absolutely.
You know, actual things that they can do in the game. Yeah. Not just, well, you got to be working hard, bud. It's like, that doesn't mean anything. That means nothing. You know, so as a coach, if you want to throw your thoughts on from the coaching perspective, both of those, the identity thing or just the slump piece as a coach.
Well, it's twofold, right? As a coach, you have to have a team identity, and then you have to be able to coach players within their identity. That's why I feel like every coach, I don't care if you're in house league, because when you coach, you've taken on the role of helping people get better. And you might not think that, but that's what your job is. Like, I never understood. So when I coached Charlie when he was really young, and I reluctantly, because I always wanted to just be dad in the stands. But when I did that, I asked the kids, because I thought, as a coach or as a hockey player, everybody wants to be as good a hockey player as they possibly can. I'm not saying that even a 15-year-old that feels like he's not going to the NHL, that doesn't mean that he doesn't want to be a really good hockey player, because it feels good when you do something well. And when you play hockey, like even if you play, like if I've only done this a couple times, but if I play in a men's league game or a tournament, it feels better when you're actually good.
Yeah, seriously.
Rather than just dog shit.
Yeah.
Right? And then when I play with the kids sometimes, it's like, I don't mind being good at it.
Yeah.
It feels better. It's like, I'm a good hockey player still or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, as a coach, every single coach should. So I asked the kids, I said, do you guys want to just have fun? Or, and just, kind of, I don't even know how to explain just have fun, because to me that doesn't even make sense. You're going to have fun if you're playing hockey, in my opinion. But I'm going to say it this way. Do you guys just want to have fun, or do you guys actually want to learn how to play hockey? Like, so what I mean by fun is like next line up and, whatever. You don't need me for that.
Yeah, it's like shinny hockey. Yeah.
But they all said, no, we want to be good hockey. But every one of them. I did it privately. I did it in a room. I said, do you want to be a better hockey player, or do you want to just kind of have fun? No, I want to be a good hockey player. Of course you do. Who would say no?
Right.
Hey, Eric, you want to work for me? Okay. Do you want to make $1 million, or do you want to make 50 grand?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's it.
So anyways, they all said that. So that was the identity thing. Okay, so let's figure out what we're good at. Okay? And now, as a coach to a kid, this is probably the first and last time you're ever going to get this. Maybe not last, but probably. So you and I sit there and I go, Eric, what do you think you're really good at in hockey? And you say, oh, I can score goals, and you had 6 last year. But you're a kid. You're a little kid.
Yeah.
And you say this, and this, and I sit there and go, yeah, I think you're good at all those things. You know what I see in you too? And I throw out what I see in you. You're a really good skater. You're really good. Like, the way you skate, I really think that if we ever have a penalty, I think you could be the guy. Now the kids that sitting there going, oh, okay. I've given them a compliment. I've given them a task. Okay, so now do you think you want to kill penalties? I think so.
Mm-hmm.
And if you kill these penalties, or you do this, and this, you're gonna be really good at this. And then number 2, I think you could do this. And I agree with you. You're this and you're this. So let's write these 4 or 5 things down. Write them down. We're gonna write them down. I get one, you get one, or we do a photocopy or whatever. Keep them in your bag. Whatever. However we do it, you're always looking at it. You always see it there. And then I can always go back as a coach and say, remember those 4 things, 5 things? Remember that? You remember how you said you really go to the net real hard? Said, I think in the last few days you're not doing that. So now I can coach you, man. Now I can coach you.
That's right.
And I can coach you the way you need it. You need to be coached.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. And it's things that you agree upon.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and a lot of, sorry to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
Because a lot of times when you ask kids that question, even if they're 15, 16, sometimes they'll just tell you what they like, not
sure.
what they're good at,
For sure.
which is score.
For
I
sure.
like to score.
For
You know,
sure.
it's like, okay, everyone likes to score. We know that. But what are you actually good at?
Yeah.
You know, and you're starting to give them some direction of actual things, you
Yeah.
know? And then when you go back later, like you said, you remember these 4 things that we decided you're going to do?
Yeah.
Or do you think you're doing them?
Yeah.
And now it's not like a fight. Now it's not you're telling them new information, you know?
Yeah. Now, so someone could sit here and listen and say, yeah, but in junior and pro, it's not like that. No, that's true. It's not necessarily a mutual thing that you like to be on the power play and shoot one-timers. Oh, good for you. Okay, we'll do that for you. Make sure that you're happy. That's not the way that works.
Mhm.
But if I'm your coach, I still think it's important, and this is basically how it goes. Is Eric? Now I'm Daryl Sutter. I was like, okay, I need you to do this, 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 and this. He's not giving you 20 things. He's giving you these things. Do them as hard as you can, best you can. It might be the end of the sentence.
Yep.
Right. But now I'm coaching you on that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
You get out of that. You don't get to play. But I can coach you now. Your success comes here. You get to play if you do this. You don't get to play if you don't do this. That's it. That's all. So that's no matter what level you're at, a player needs to know what they need to do, what they excel at, and how they get ice, and how they make the team a better team, and how to win. So outside of that conversation, I also, as a coach, have to have a philosophy or a team identity, right? So what are we? We're a really fast skating, skilled team that, we're small. We go down. It's like, okay, we don't have the physicality, but I need you to still make some contact. But anyways, we're playing fast. We got these. This is 3 things that we need to play. Hard on the forecheck, hard on our D zone, and speed through the neutral zone. That's how we play. Or it's we're a physical team that it's an ugly win all the time. Whatever the philosophy is.
Yep.
So now the 2 philosophies work together, and now you're coachable. So now when a team gets into a slump, so a player gets into a slump. We talked about that, I guess.
Yep, you can go back to your
now we get
couple
a
things.
team if we call a slump, we're losing a couple games, or we're outside of our identity, then it's like you can draw everything back. And what happens is it's never the big things. It's never the big things. It's always the small things, right? It's either you're not we're not physical enough. We're not hard enough in certain areas.
Yeah.
We're not getting pucks to the net. We're too fancy. Whatever the attitude sucks. Whatever it is, you can bring it in. And as long as the small things are getting done, sometimes you're just going to lose. Yep. It's going to happen.
Yeah. So the higher levels thing that you were mentioning there for a sec, how coaches it's not going to be a buddy type of conversation. This is what's going to happen. Like you said, is they're still going to give you a job. You still have a job to do. So they're giving you a role. So if your first time being assigned a role is when you're playing in junior, you have to learn like what that means. That's a tough learning curve because you've never had direction before. So the benefit of doing this to kids when they're younger as a coach, even if you're going to say, well, at higher levels, they don't do it as much. The benefit is you're starting to teach kids that they're going to play in a role. They're going to have a certain job on a certain team. That role could change depending on their team, who else, their teammates, the team identity, whatever. But they're starting to understand that I'm going to have a role and I need to play and do my job in this certain role. Yeah. And it's not just go out there and do whatever I want, play my position, but do whatever I want. It's like, no, you have to play your position. Yes, that's for the team. But then you also have to do the 3-4 personalized skill things for the team, and at the higher level, they're going to do that too. Like we got a guy that played here. Or that came here that was playing in the NHL. And I remember you telling me, he said his job was, he's a big body, go over the boards, angle the guy to dump the puck in.
Make yourself big in the neutral zone.
Yeah, then if you got to make a good first pass, do it, and then get off.
That
was his whole job. He played in the NHL. His job was that. Make him dump it in.
5 to 15 seconds.
Make him dump the puck in, and then make a good first pass out of the zone. Be a big body out there. That was his job. That's his all.
Just under $1 million a year.
Yeah, that's all he had to do. For his whole role was just that. And if he did things that weren't that, you're not playing. See you later.
If he scored, it would be fine.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
Your job.
You're not going to be the second. You're not going to be the second pair defenseman now.
No.
You're going to be the 6D that is out there in defensive situations and has a defensive mindset. So that's another thing too. It's like you guys will think that once they have their role or whatever, they'll go score a goal and now I'm going to be a first. It's like no, you still have your job to do. You still have your job to do. So it's very important that you guys do that as coaches. And then to the point about the slump, whether it's a team or an individual, again, you can like you said, just to reiterate, you can bring everyone back. You can center the team. You can center the individual back to what they need to be doing, because the mindset of the team can start to go to shit, and the mindset of the individual can start to go to shit if you're not playing well or if the team is losing. And these are just strategies that you can do to intervene with your team to help to pull them out, rather than just have certain individuals spinning their wheels, or the whole team just have a bad attitude and a negative outlook on the games because they think they're in a slump, whatever. And the other point too is how we talked about, maybe you're not in a slump. Like sometimes you're just going to lose. And this was one of the things that was interesting. We talked about it a few podcasts ago with one of the OHL teams. One of the dads was watching his kid and saying, I thought we played like crap, whatever. And then the coach came out and said, oh, well, we had more puck possession. We had a bunch of shots on that. We played great.
Yeah.
We just didn't get the bounces today.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, like that, I didn't think that at all. But you can use that to go to your team to have that conversation. It's like, well, you guys think we're in a slump. Well, we're out shooting the other team every game. We're still getting to the net. We're just not getting the bounces right now. We're not actually in a slump, boys.
Like, you might have the best goalie for that day in the history of the world, Vladislav Tretiak for the day.
Yeah, that's it, right?
8 scored.
Yeah. And you lose 3 games in a row. Does that mean you're in a slump? Not necessarily, just because you lost. So you have something to coach with. Yeah. You have a tool to coach from, So that's, I want to leave that.
Just sticking on this one piece for a second, when we talked about your own personal identity and roles. I've said this before, but I'm going to go back again because I think it's the one thing that people just kind of goes in one ear out the other. As a youngster, like what am I, 79? But as a young fella playing hockey, when a coach says it's important to win a face-off, that's why it's important to look at all the little details, not overlook back checking. Like it's funny, in lacrosse, if you don't play like hard D, you don't play. Yeah. Like the defensive zone, but in hockey, it's like almost like it's some kids they're better in the offensive zone. It's unacceptable. Anyways, my point is learn every little detail of the game and do it really, really hard, because most of you will not play at a high level and be a goal scorer. Okay, so even a kid that goes into major junior hockey, plays in the OHL or college, and they have like they're a little bit more of a goal scorer, and they're getting like 30, 40 goals, maybe even the 50 goal scorers. That translating to an NHL job as a goal scorer isn't always. Sometimes it happens, but a lot of times it'll never translate, because there's a whole league full of 50 goal scorers that used to be 50 goal scorers. So you do have to learn all the little details so that you can translate in the NHL or to the next level, so that you can actually play a role to help the team win. Okay, so when I look, especially spending so many games, watching so many OHL games with all the kids that we train and stuff, and my son playing in the league this year, I'm watching players play that either haven't figured that part out yet, and they haven't created a necessarily identity for themselves. Right? They're doing okay, and this is almost a curse to me. The curse is when you have like early success. Meaning, what do people consider success? Can you answer that question?
High draft pick, playing the OHL already at 16.
No, but like playing the game. If you have early success,
like scoring, being better.
That's the answer. Okay, that's the answer. Yeah. Like if you
most points,
couple goals. You don't know. Like I'm just saying, even a 15 or a 16, 17-year-old kid comes in the league in the first 10 games, he's got 6 goals. Thinks he's good now. Thinks that this is his role. Right? It's a curse. Yep. Can be. Yep. Because if you think that's what you're good at, that could change in an instant. And as soon as things don't go your way, what happens the next 10 games if you get 0, which happens several times. So I just watch a lot of the kids come in the league, and they're like have kind of a little early success, and they think that they're actually, I'm doing, like, I belong here and I'm really good. But to get to the next level, they haven't really done anything special to stand out. So that's why I like. Not saying you don't want to get points. I'm not saying that at all, but that's why I would like to see a kid go into the league and earn everything, so that when they're very good in their D zone, they get an opportunity to move up and do something else. Or if they're a power play specialist, that's fine. You're very good at it, but the rest of your game you're building, so that if you're a checker, I'm not saying body checker, but if you're like a real good defensive guy, the coach says, okay, he's really good on his face-off, so he's going to go and take this face-off, and you're getting rewarded with extra. So you're doing something well. You're shutting guys down, so you've done that well. Okay, from there, that base, now I can add.
Yep.
Right? So if I'm a really good defensive player at 16, 17, winning my face-offs, responsible, like I understand this game and I'm getting rewarded for it. Now the next year, or maybe he graduates with a few shifts and it's like, okay, we're going to throw you, I need you on this situation and I want you to make sure we're really doing this offensive thing now. Just add that to your game. Right? And then all of a sudden that kid becomes a complete player. And then if he gets drafted in the NHL or whatever level he's going to next, he can play all situations.
Yes.
So now, now you got 30 goals in the OHL or college, and then, but you also had a complete game. So now you go play for the Boston Bruins, and they don't need a second line goal scoring winger or center. They need someone that could fit on the fourth line. That's the only spot they have.
Right.
But you're good. You can put the puck in the net, but you're so good at your own end that you can get to play anyways, and you can evolve again. Yeah. And you just do that process.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to stick on that term complete player.
Yeah.
Because people throw that out a lot. He's a complete player.
And 200 foot.
But people don't even know what that means. No. Right? So the term that you want to have associated with yourself is that you're adaptable. I can put you anywhere. You want to be able to adapt to whatever role I give you.
Yeah.
So if I need a guy to go do this job, I can pick you.
Yeah.
If I need a guy to go do this job, I can pick you or whatever, because if you don't have that, like you said, you're just eliminating potential opportunities.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that's nice about it is if you are in a position where, let's say you're finding you're not a goal scorer anymore. So let's say you're a 17-year-old and you scored 40 goals last year. Now you moved up a step to a higher league and you're not scoring. It's like, okay, am I in a slump now? It's like, well, no, maybe just this is a more difficult level of play and you're not going to score as many goals. It's like, okay, so if you don't have this mentality, now it's like, are you in a slump for the whole year?
Right.
And you're so focused on being a goal scorer the whole year, but it's like maybe you're just not that actually.
Yeah.
So if you don't have another avenue to go down, now you're useless. And this is the danger. You were just talking about early success. We got two guys here that play and they're rookies and they're two of the best players in the league, but they're playing against lower competition.
Yep.
So when they move up to the next level, which they're going to, they could go in there and get a smack across the face because now they're playing against top dogs.
Probably will.
And and everybody does.
Yep.
So when they move on, it's going to be the danger is that they're so caught up thinking that they're supposed to be the dominant offensive players that if they don't have this other line of thinking where it's like, I need to be adaptable, I need to be able to change roles, or I need to be able to do another job well, and not just identify myself with going bar down every second game.
Yeah.
It's like, you're going to run into some issues later if you're not ready for that. And that's something that can totally happen.
Yeah. Well, I got a really good example of a player that didn't have a clue. So guy grew up in Sudbury, Ontario. His name was Uncle Andy. That was me.
Yeah.
Okay. So I grew up as I was just put pucks in the net all the time. I worked, but listen, I'm not saying I didn't care about my D zone. I did. I backed it. It was just, but what it was just hard work.
Yeah, you weren't thinking I need to be good in my D zone. You just worked.
None of that stuff. Winning faceoffs. I'd set up plays with my wingers and say, okay, I remember Jimmy Smith, who actually played with me in junior too, who's on the right side. I could win faceoffs, most of them. So on this one, I said, okay, just as soon as it drops, just go. I'll have it up. He scored on breakaways all the time from that, right? So, but when it was points, right? I was the guy that would win games for you. So my draft year, I was playing a year up, and I was a very high draft pick. And I had 200 points playing a year up again, AAA hockey. So what do you think? Why do you think, or what do you think I thought they drafted me for? Points. 100%. And they did. And they did. So I go into that league, the OHL, at 16 years old, little kid. I don't even know how to play hockey. Like, I'm not being humble here. This is the truth. Like every other kid, most kids, I would say 99% of the kids have no idea how to play hockey at that level. So I go into that league and it's like, it's big, it's fast, it's heavy, it's rough, it's a whole different league. And I've got NHL draft picks ahead of me. And that's the other thing. I've got at the center position, we had 3 NHL high draft picks in front of me, actually 4. And then on the wings, we were loaded with draft picks. Well, let's do the math here. Like, as a kid, I couldn't figure it out, but now I'm like, well, good luck. Yeah. But anyways, I made the team and I played, and I got 4th line ice and stuff like that. But I didn't. and part of it wasn't me. I didn't learn how to play. I watched it on TV and I studied hockey, whatever you call it, 15 or 14-year-old studying hockey. But I didn't know how to play. I didn't know the right side of the puck, this, that, the other thing, holding guys on face-offs, don't letting guys through, like blocking, being a F3. What the hell did that mean? I didn't even know. So you get to that league, I know how to put pucks in the net. Well, now it's just really, really, really hard to put pucks in the net because I'm 16 and he's 21 and he's 20, he's 19, he's 18, he's 17. He's drafted. He's been in the league for 4 years and he's 6'4" and 215 pounds. That's why. So for me, I was sitting there going, okay, what's going on here, man? Like, I need to score goals. And that was my metric, scoring goals, getting points. So that was a tough battle.
For sure, man.
And no one was there to tell me that, no. Do this first. If you do the Guy Carbonneau type playing first, win your face-off, be a good penalty killer, block shots, get pucks out, blah, 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 then your points will come because they will.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know. So I had to figure it out as I go. It took me 2.5 years to figure out how to be a good hockey player in the league.
Yeah, so you were
with zero coaching.
Exactly, and you were in a slump for 2.5 years, according to you.
According to me,
It's
questioning whether I should exist on this earth.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Why am I even playing hockey? And the quit came in my head so many times. Like, like everybody, like this happens.
Sure.
This happens. But that's what would go through your head. It's like, I don't know if I'm gonna ever get points again. Because that was my measuring stick, and it's just not a good measuring stick.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great
relative to where you are.
Yeah.
Right now, Sidney Crosby or McDavid, if he's not getting points, like lots and lots of points, or Ovechkin not getting points, then they probably should question it. But
even
they're so good they could even make their game work for them.
But even McDavid, so in his rookie season, he had a point a game, right?
Yeah.
Which is good. Like, that's ridiculous for a rookie.
Yeah.
But even for him, he could have had I'm sure there were stretches of his rookie season in the OHL where he was like, man, like, I had 50 goals by this time last year or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're 16 and you don't know.
And like I always say, you always overestimate how good you are and underestimate how good the competition is.
Yeah, for sure. So that's a really good example, man. And that's the thing you don't want to do. That's what you don't want to do. So for the last part of this, maybe we'll touch on the parents a little bit. Is if you got a kid that's in the slump. So we did players, we did coaches. For parents, how do you help parent out of a slump or whatever?
Well, it goes back to this is a tougher one because some parents have a good way to communicate with their kids. Some people don't, and some people will give kid more excuses rather than reasons. So, but this is what I would say is if you have the ability to have those 4 or 5 things, and I think any parent listening to this should share it with their kid because you might not be able to get that message across. So let them listen to the podcast or say, I heard this really interesting thing that helps every player get through slumps or identify themselves. Have 4 or 5 things that make you feel good or not feel good, that identify as a good game. So if the parents know that, then they can always come back to that, right? Mm-hmm. So if a kid comes back with his tail between his legs and I just suck right now, you don't want to give them, no, you're doing good, give them a hug and make them some cookies, right? You could look at effort as number 1, but number 2 is go down the list. Okay, hey, remember, you got those 4 or 5 things. Are you say you go to the net, that's how you have success. Did you get to the net? Don't tell them. Ask them.
Right.
If they're pissy, they might say, yeah, I did. Shut up, Dad. They might do that, but they're going to, no, I didn't go to the net. If they're going to be honest with themselves, no, I didn't go to the net. I didn't finish the checks. And so, well, let's start with that, right? You could say, you know what, one of the things I heard is visualizing. Like if you see yourself do well, give them that task. So that's something. The one thing don't do is beat the shit out of them. Like as far as harping on hockey, it's the worst thing you can do. I do it with my kid today in the OHL. It works.
Yeah.
Let him talk, ask him a few questions, know that he's going to solve it. The worst thing that parents do is, and this is the biggest thing I see with parents, is they never stop talking about hockey, ever. They come in here, they talk about it. You see the parents in the lobby, they're just nonstop talking about hockey. It's the biggest worry of their life. So kids get in the car and they get home. I remember I told you this, right? Charlie's agent loves it. He sends me a note all the time about eating that shitty piece of chicken. But the truth was, is at my house when my dad was around, he would sit there and it would be hockey, 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 hockey. The guy never played a sport in his life. So I'd be in it. Dad, I just want to eat this shitty piece of chicken. Can you please just stop talking about hockey? Talk about something else, you know?
Yeah.
So the more that you harp on it as a parent, probably the worse it's going to be.
Yeah.
The kids will solve it, but you know, if you can give them that little bit of direction, is the 4 or 5 things. Suggest visualizing. That would be my thing. And don't talk too much.
Yeah, the one thing I want to remind the parents of too is that it's important that you be honest about your ability to actually help.
Yep.
Because a lot of times I find parents think they're giving good advice, but they're not.
Yeah.
Or they're telling them something that isn't actually what they need to be working on or whatever. And I'm not saying that. Sorry, go.
No, I was going to say, what, in your opinion, I'm asking the question, what do you think a parent says? Okay, I'm a kid that comes out of the dressing room, or I'm coming home, and you can see it on my face. Haven't scored, you lost a tournament, whatever the thing is, you can see it. What do you think? And or maybe I verbalize it now. I said, I'm not playing good. I had a shit game. What do you think most parents say?
Well, you're not really. Well, one of 2 ways.
Yeah.
It's either the no,
right,
that way,
yes,
or it's the well, you're not even touching the puck. Like
Yeah.
you're not even going to get
Yeah.
it. Like it looks like you're not working.
Yeah.
Like your legs aren't. It's one of those two.
And what advice do you think they give them?
Their advice is you need to work harder. You need to
Yes.
try harder. You need
Yes.
to what? And it's all empty, nothing
it's
words
nothing.
that mean nothing.
Yeah.
So this is my warning. This is why I'm saying this is because you might think you're being helpful, and you might have great intentions even,
Yeah.
and I'm sure most parents do, but you might actually not be helping. So you might, and not only not helping, you might be a pain in the ass
Mm-hmm.
for your kid.
Most parents are.
You know, so just try to analyze what is qualifying you to give them specific hockey advice in
Yeah.
terms of what they need to be doing. So here's a way to do it, in my opinion. If you're a mom or dad and your kid comes in after, is you do the asking questions way, like you were saying.
Yeah.
But even if you're coming up with your 3 or 4 things, like you might not know how to come up with that if you're mom
That's
and
right.
dad.
Well, you don't.
You don't.
You don't
So-
know it's good.
So it's just got to be a conversation. It's
Yeah.
just got to be a conversation where you guys, and again, you could be wrong,
Yeah.
but it's better to do it as a conversation where you guys are just communicating about it with each other, trying to figure it out together, rather than dictate to them things you think they should be doing when you have no context for what they should be doing regardless.
Yeah.
Like you don't know if they need to go finish their hit here, or they need to go get the puck in the corner, or they need to go do whatever XYZ thing, because you don't know the systems, you don't know whatever. You might have never played hockey before. You don't even know what's important. You don't know how to identify a role. You might not know any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's important that you are honest with your ability to help. Like, don't get overexcited thinking that you know enough to really like sideline coach your kid as opposed to parent them. Like, parent them, don't coach them.
Yeah.
You know? Because if you're going to try to coach them, you might be going against what the coach is saying, number one. Or number two, you might be giving them bad advice or the wrong advice.
Yeah.
You know? So if that's one thing I want to make sure that parents keep in mind is take the approach that you were saying, like have the conversations, ask the questions and all that kind of stuff, and come up with a strategy together.
Yeah.
If you don't know. But that takes a level of honesty as mom and dad. Like, you have to be honest with what your actual capability is of helping them in the sport. It's not just because you're an adult and they're a kid that you can tell them what to do and it will work out well or better if they just listen to you, you know? Because that was one thing I realized as I started to become an adult. It's like, oh shit, my parents are actually just people. It's like my parents don't actually know all the answers.
Yeah.
And when you're a kid, it's like mom and dad know all the answers.
Actually, they probably know less because they think they know.
Well,
That's right. I've seen parents on a daily basis, and it's not my place to step in sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, it's not my place to step in when you're teaching your kid. When your kid is given to me to work with, then it's my right to teach them how to think about hockey, not about life, about hockey and about how to be better and stuff. So, but I watch parents, or they'll come in. We saw one guy doing an interview, and he was came in here, booked a session with me to help his son do some interviews in the OHL. Like, what do you think they ask and all that stuff? So I'm walking through, and his dad would interrupt and tell him what to do. I'm like, this is the problem. Like, you are the problem. You are the problem. Like, and the kid's going to be okay. Nah, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. Like, he's not like, yeah, I didn't mean that. Like, he's opened some eyes this year, but I think his dad's taking that to a different level. and thinks that this is like it's happening, it's on, he's going somewhere, but it's like, you're the problem, Dad. You are actually the problem. You're not helping him. Like, you're trying to, I get that, but you're like so concerned about him. And this kid's got it figured out, like mentally. He's good.
Yeah.
He's got some good
thinking.
mojo. He's thinking. He's got the right attitude. He's got the right work ethic. Everything's good, but he needs to do it himself. But he's got this guy tell him all the things that no, you're wrong. Like, you're actually wrong. You're giving him bad advice. You're giving him way too much, and it's wrong.
Yeah.
But I see it, man, every day. It's just like, oh man, you're not helping your kid right now.
Yeah, and make sure people that you're clear about what we're saying here. We're not saying like don't try to help and whatever, but you just have to be careful about your road to hell is paved with good intentions kind of thing. So
but there's resources, right? This is the thing.
But you have to have a brain. This is what I'm saying. Like there's resources, there's things you can find, but you have to be willing to think. Don't think, I listened to one podcast by XYZ person and now I feel like I can tell them exactly what they need. Yeah. It's like, it takes time to build the base of knowledge to give good advice on anything. Yeah. So make sure, and most parents that I don't, like I've seen, especially dads, like dads are terrible for it. It's like, just, you think your barking commands are what's right. Yeah. And a lot of times it's not right, man. Yeah. So you have to be able to have a brain about it when you're going in to try to help your kid with this kind of stuff.
The biggest revelation I had as a dad with hockey experience, but as a dad, is I was able to read when my son just didn't want to hear it.
That's right.
And I was good. You know this. I wasn't hockey. He would bring hockey up more than me. Yeah. I'm sick of hockey. But we would be, whatever, Dad, what do you think? Or earlier on, I would try to give him more, here, try this, and this. And it was like, you could just see the eyeballs trolling for flies now. Just no. And then to continue on the conversation, it's just your kid will not even want to talk to you.
That's right.
So read them, and don't be offended. It's like, they're kids. And here's the other thing is that when kids play hockey, this is the thing. Most parents don't know. Most parents know that their kid's not going really anywhere in hockey, in the real scheme of things. Okay, but they treat the kids as if like it's the most important thing in their life. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So they keep harping on something that the kids are just trying to have fun, or they're trying to be good. And the kid that wants it will figure it out anyways. And this is the hardest thing for parents to understand and for me, it was hard for me. I mean, this is experience. Your kid will figure it out. The kid will decide whether he wants to do it or not. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Not you, man. The kid will figure it out. Yep. I've seen it with my son.
Yep.
I thought there was days where, and everyone's different, right? But I thought there was days where it's like, I don't think he wants it that bad. My wife thought it even more. If he really wanted to be shooting more pucks, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. If you really wanted to succeed in your business, you'd be working later, doing more. So shut your pie hole.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Sweet. I think that's good. We've covered all things there. Do you got anything else you want to leave off with, or good to go?
No, I think I'm good. You?
Good to go. Yeah, good. I like it. I like that. So yeah, this is a good topic. I think we should get some good feedback on this one. So you got any questions about this? Players, parents, coaches, whatever you got, you can shoot us a message or whatever, and then we'll get back to you on this in a follow-up.
But I'll finish off with one thing just to reiterate. Yep. A slump, or what's considered a slump, is probably not necessarily physical. It's probably a mental block or a mental exercise that you need to work on. So if you feel that you're not performing the way you can or should or needed to, instead, right, and going down the downward spiral of telling yourself all the bad things you're doing, take steps in the other direction and go back to what's important now and control your controllables. And number one is mentally, what can you control? If you feel like you haven't scored goals, you're not playing your game, look at mentally how you like to play. Visualize it and see yourself doing well, because that puts you in a controllable situation. Analyze your game just a little bit to find out and be honest with yourself to see and go back to your basics and see if you're doing your basics. And if you do those first two things, you're probably going to get out of what you consider a slump or not playing at your ultimate best.
Awesome. Okay. Leave it there. Thanks, guys.